Welcome to Afro Tales Hub channel. Once upon a time, in the village of Udom, there lived a 37-year-old woman named Ola. Despite having a successful business, financial security, and the respect of the village, she yearned for a husband. Ola was the eldest daughter in her family and lived with her younger sister while her other sisters were happily married. This situation left Ola feeling sad and depressed, especially when she saw her friends who were married with children. Although suitors approached Ola, she rejected them because she believed they were not on the same financial level as her. Ola desired a partner who matched her financial status, but such men were not pursuing her. Despite her trust in God's timing, things took a turn for the worse during her sister's wedding when relatives started questioning Ola's unmarried status. Overhearing gossip from women in the village only added to her despair. Feeling mocked and ridiculed, Ola retreated to her room, crying and questioning why God hadn't answered her prayers for a husband. She chose to isolate herself during the celebrations, unable to bear the happiness around her. Observing Ola's absence, her younger sister AF tried to console her, but Ola pushed her away, preferring to be alone with her sorrow. Left to her own thoughts, Ola continued weeping until she eventually fell asleep, exhausted by her emotional turmoil. In the following days, Ola remained alone at home with her parents, feeling empty and unfulfilled without a husband. Her mother's constant pressure to get married only intensified her feelings of loneliness. To avoid her mother's nagging, Ola started staying at her store overnight and only returned home on weekends. One afternoon, Ola's friend Ao visited her at the store and noticed her downcast and gloomy demeanor. Ao called Ola's attention and suggested that she consider getting pregnant to fulfill her desire for a child before reaching menopause. Upon hearing this advice from a friend, A became even more saddened. She made up her mind and decided that she would accept any man who came for her hand in marriage, regardless of his wealth or occupation. She just wanted a man. Unfortunately, men stopped showing interest in her, so she began praying to God to send her any man. After 2 months, while at her store, she met a young man named AD. He was tall, handsome and in his early 40s. AD came to make a purchase from Ola's store and became interested in her. Ola readily accepted his advances. During their courtship, Ola noticed some troubling behaviors in AD, but she dismissed them, hoping he would change after marriage. Ola, blinded by her financial security, didn't bother to learn about AD's job or source of income. She assumed everything would be fine as long as she had money. Her desperation for marriage clouded her judgment, and she ignored all the red flags about AD. All she cared about was getting married. A few months later, Ola and AD got married, and congratulations poured in, especially from Ola's relieved mother. The wedding day was filled with joyous celebration, but once the last guest left, a strange emptiness settled over Ola. She was now faced with the truth about her decision, the truth she had desperately ignored. A few months into the marriage, Ola discovered that AD was unemployed and had lied about having a job. This revelation didn't bother Ola initially because she was wealthy and believed money could solve any problem. She impulsively gave AD a large sum of money from her business to start a business venture. However, AD never used the money for the intended purpose. Instead, he squandered it on drinks and luxury items. When Ola realized they had lost all the money, she was overcome with sadness and regret. She wished she had never entrusted him with such a significant amount. A few months later, Ola became pregnant with her first child. She was overjoyed to finally be a mother. However, managing both her business and the household became increasingly difficult. Ola asked AD, who was still jobless, to help her in the business, but he refused. He claimed to be unfamiliar with how her business worked. Despite being pregnant, Ola worked tirelessly every day while also taking care of household chores. AD, on the other hand, did nothing but sleep and eat. Whenever Ola asked him to contribute or help with household tasks, he would get angry and leave for days without returning. One day, Ola decided to confront her husband. She couldn't bear his attitude any longer. She became angry and scolded him, but AD showed no concern for her pain. He even beat her, even during her pregnancy, until she fainted. He warned her that it was just the beginning and threatened to harm her even more. AD left the house, leaving Ola bleeding and in danger. Fortunately, a neighbor took Ola to the hospital, and she recovered without losing her baby. When she returned home, AD still didn't come back or inquire about Ola or their unborn child. Weeks later, AD returned home, but Ola decided not to bother him about finding a job or working. She continued to struggle and manage her home responsibilities. 2 years later, Ola became pregnant again and gave birth to her second child, a baby girl. Life became even harder for Ola after the birth of her second child. Her workload increased, but AD remained lazy and unhelpful at home and in her business. He only slept and ate. One day, unable to endure it any longer, Ola became angry and frustrated. She scolded AD, urging him to be useful and fulfill his fatherly duties. However, AD refused to see reason and continued his irresponsible behavior. Ola's mother was not pleased to hear that her daughter was disrespecting her husband. She decided to visit Ola, caution her, and ask for the reasons behind her actions. Meanwhile, AD, worried about his bad habits being discovered by his mother-in-law, came up with an idea. He left home early in the morning while everyone was still asleep, taking some of his belongings with him. Ola woke up and couldn't find her husband anywhere. She searched the house and the village, but he was nowhere to be found. Confused and distressed, Ola realized that the money she had hidden for restocking her business was also missing. Devastated, Ola fell to her knees and cried, feeling hopeless about her business and her future. She had gone from prosperity to poverty in an instant. To save her business, Ola borrowed a significant amount of money from a women's community organization. With their financial support, her business slowly regained its stability. 3 months later, AD suddenly returned, begging for forgiveness and pleading with Ola to accept him back. Ola, still angry, poured water on him and chased him away. However, AD persisted, returning a few days later with his family members, who all pleaded for forgiveness. They promised to repay Ola for the damages their son had caused and begged for another chance. Ola, considering the well-being of their children, forgave AD and accepted him back into their lives. AD transformed his behavior, taking care of the home and assisting Ola with her business. Ola felt relieved and grateful, praising God for the positive change in her husband. Their relationship improved, and they enjoyed a period of happiness. After 6 months, it was time for Ola to repay the money she had borrowed. She returned home with a large sum of money, planning to settle her debt. However, when she went to retrieve the money she had hidden, it was gone. Ola searched desperately but found no trace of her husband or the money. Overwhelmed by the shock, she fainted outside her house. Neighbors found her and revived her, but Ola was devastated once again. She realized that her husband had disappeared, taking the money with him. Filled with despair, Ola cried uncontrollably. The impending meeting with the women's organization terrified her, as she would have to explain the loss of their money. Ola considered running away, but she knew it would only bring shame to her family. She decided to face the consequences and attended the meeting. Tearfully, she explained what had happened and how she had lost the money. The news angered many members of the organization, as the funds represented contributions made throughout the year. Some women even threatened to take action against Ola. Ola left the meeting venue feeling ashamed, fearful, and disappointed. She was unsure of the actions that the women's organization might take against her. When she arrived home, she held her children tightly and burst into tears. It felt like the worst moment of her life as she began to reflect on her past and regretted the day she met AD. 2 days later, members of the women's organization, accompanied by the police, arrived at Ola's house. They arrested her and took her away, leaving her young toddlers alone. A kind neighbor stepped in to care for the children, while someone else was tasked with informing Ola's mother about the situation and requesting her to come and pick up her 2 grandchildren. When Ola's mother arrived, she wept bitterly and took her 2 grandchildren back to her home. Ola was imprisoned for 2 weeks and 2 days before being taken to court. She was found guilty and sentenced to 7 years of imprisonment to compensate for the lost money. Having already served 2 years in jail, Ola's situation seemed bleak. However, a fortunate turn of events occurred when a rich and powerful man of God visited the prison for evangelism. He noticed Ola crying in a corner and inquired about her distress. Ola shared her story, and the man of God felt deep sympathy for her. He decided to help her clear her debts. The next day, the pastor cleared Ola's debts, and an agreement was signed at the police station, resulting in her release from prison. Overwhelmed with gratitude, Ola kneeled down and thanked the man of God for saving her. Additionally, the man of God generously provided her with a substantial amount of money to boost her business, making her even wealthier than before. Ola thanked God profoundly for remembering her after years of suffering. Her business thrived more than ever, and she became a wealthy woman in the village. Determined to protect herself and her children, Ola swore never to marry again or have any involvement with men. She lived peacefully with her 2 children. After a few months, Ola located her ex-husband and had him arrested for stealing and fraud. He was sentenced to 14 years of imprisonment. The moral lesson of this story reminds us not to succumb to societal pressure when it comes to marriage. Rushing into such decisions can lead to unhappy consequences. It is crucial to take the time to choose wisely and prioritize quality relationships to build a strong and supportive partnership. Parents play an essential role in protecting their children and should avoid pressuring them into making hasty decisions out of desperation. Society should refrain from gossiping about others' predicaments, whether they are unmarried or childless, as it can contribute to depression and desperate choices. Kindness and empathy should prevail in our interactions with others. Thank you for listening. May God bless you.